what I wanted to do right now is show you two very powerful things that I did in my business that doubled my business overnight. And I'm serious about this. I mean, I didn't do any additional marketing. There was no added marketing dollars, and I didn't have to change my process at all. But I literally doubled my business overnight. And I'm going to show you exactly what I did. I mean, I went from zero to literally $175,000 in my business in sales by just making a few little tweaks. Now, most of you are all business owners, right? You're either, looking to build a brand, build a business, or you need to scale your business even more. Well, what I'm going to show with you guys right now, it's going to completely change the way you look at what you do. So I want to ask you guys, what are you doing right now? Are you to market your business? Are you using lives, or are you using webinars to sell your product or services or your offers, right? You might be a coach, or you might have a digital product already, or maybe you're really new and you're not quite sure what I'm talking about. Well, I'm going to share with you a few things right now, guys, that you can do, and you don't have to add anything else to your business, but doing these two simple things. Ready to check it out? All right, I'm going to bring you down here in my paper because I want you to see something. I want you to see exactly what I mean. Now, most people are marketing, either you have an ad, or let's say you bring someone through into your world. Now, I'm going to write this out here. Most people that come in, let's say we're doing a webinar, all right? So we've got a webinar, and you have an ad, or it's a video, whatever, however you bring them into this video or into this world. And they have a registration page, right? So they register. Now, the normal process, right, of a webinar is they register, and then, of course, they end up getting to meet you on their webinar. They see your happy, smiley face, right? You do your pitch, you share with them what you've got, and then the next process, of course, is you bring them on over to a sales page. I'm really making some great boxes here, as you can see, right? You bring them on over to a sales page. And then from the sales pages, they are asked to buy, right? But what happens here? How many people do you think, when they get here, most of the time they're pretty cold at the front, right? They're really cold. They come in cold. They don't really know you very much. They might have been on your email list, certainly, but they're not so warm, right? And we bring them through the webinar process. And once you get to the close of your webinar, what happens? Unless you're really good, you're either making, let's say, a 10%, maybe 20%. If you're like a complete rock star, you might get a 30% close on a webinar, right? But how many people are you leaving out? Now, there's one thing that we did differently that completely changed our conversions, and literally from a botched, failed webinar to generating over $170,000 in our business. Certainly after the buy button, right, you started speaking to them in an email, right? These are the ones that didn't end up buying. But what we did is something really different that took them from being completely cold up front, because by the time they get down here, what would you say? Chances are they're still pretty cold, right? They're still pretty cold. So what we did is we started talking to them differently. Now, after they came to the buy button and they literally left the cart, we started discussing with them in a different way using email, like working them through a process of testimonials, seeing some success stories that you had. But what happens when you do this? You might pick up a onesie or twosie, maybe an additional 10%, right? If you're pushing it, if you're really good on your automation, your systems. But what do you do? And what if I shared with you a process that could help you not have to do anything different, but just add on to the front end? So instead of making them cold when they get to the back end, sort of warming them up in the back end, what if I said we could make them super hot once they got to the registration, or even moderately warm, and by the time they got to the buy button, hot, right? All right, this is what I call the invisible difference, all right? I'm going to show you what I mean by the invisible difference. Now, in your business, if you just add in this to the front end of your webinar process. Now, this is the front end of our webinar. If you added this in to the very front end of your webinar and then continue to do the exact same thing in your webinar, you're going to double your business. All right? I call it the invisible difference. We use what's called the 21-day hot plan. We're taking lukewarm, cold clients and bringing them all the way through our sales process to buying. This is what I mean. We run it on a 21-day plan. So basically, week 1, week 2, and week 3. Now, week 1, I like to use Facebook Lives, right, or video. Why do we do that? Well, Facebook Lives is where everyone's playing. We know that there's like 7.8 billion people in the world, and nearly 4.6 billion viewers are on Facebook every single month, right? So using Facebook Lives and video is the absolute best way to connect with your audience and to bring them and turn them hot. So this is what you do. Week 1, all right? You do a 21-day plan. Now we typically do, let's say, a series of 5 videos per week. Okay, so here we go. We got our little funny faces. This is your little cute face. And you've picked 21 super hot topics that you can not only teach someone something, create a result for them, or provide a transformation in your chosen niche. So you write down, you plan out your 21-day plan. Now, this first week of these videos, you're giving them a lot of juicy content, right? And you're gaining their trust that you know what you're talking about. But this is the thing. This first week, you use no links at all. Why don't we use links? Well, we know as a buyer or a follower, if you are giving too many links right away when you first meet someone, what happens? They think you're going to sell them something. So we leave out links in that very first week. Second week, right? We're setting them up again. Now we use a really defined structure of how to use our Facebook Lives. I'm going to show you how I'm going to give you guys access to that in a minute. But here's our second week. Now I know my boxes are really looking goofy, but here you are. There's your fun face. But there's a different thing that you do this week. We start giving them links, like maybe an ebook, right? We give them something to download, a report or something like that, right? Or maybe even an additional training series that they can download. And we start bringing them into our world, right? Now we're bringing them into our world. You may have in a Facebook group. You bring them inside your Facebook group. Because by now, we got 2 full weeks of these people following you through, and you're going to be consistent. You're going to be at the same time every single day, and they're going to expect exactly what to get from you every week. Now, the third week is when it gets fun. Now, remember, this is everything before your webinar, right? This is all taking place before you even invite them to go to a webinar with you. All right, I know this is a funny face. I'm trying to do it fast, right? Here's your fun little face. Now, here is when we start loading them up for the webinar, okay? So this week, we're going to give them links. We're going to say, register for our webinar. Register for the webinar. If you love what I've been talking about all week, I'm really going to break it down on my webinar coming up, or my masterclass, or your workshop coming up next week. So we do that all week. Your call to action all week is here. Now, we haven't even gotten to a webinar yet, right? Now they've been registering, just like they were over here, right? Now we're here. They're starting to register. But now, are they cold? No, they're not cold. They're pretty darn warm as far as I'm concerned. Can you imagine how warm you would be if you were following someone consistently that was providing you with so much value for 3 full weeks and not asking you to buy a thing from them? Pretty warm, wouldn't you? And then by the time they get to this registration page, there's that webinar of yours. Now they're like, wow, they understand your language because you've been talking to them, your language, your world. Then by the time they get to the sales page, what happens? Now they go to the buy button. Instead of begging and hoping for this 10% closing rate, now we've got that hot customer that decides that your offer is right for them at this time. I did this exact strategy right here, right? So there's that webinar sales page, right? Buy, and they're warm, they're hot, right? By the time they got through this, they were hot. Now, the second thing that we did is communicate really well with them in the back end, having a full back end system set up that not only addresses some of maybe the problems that they had, or address some of the things that were holding them back from moving forward, but you use your email to now reconfirm and reassure all of this that you've been talking about all week. And what happens? Now, instead of hoping for that additional 10%, we've now got an improvement, right? I had a 30% closing rate in a webinar by doing just this. No added marketing, actual advertised spend. And I literally doubled my business overnight with this exact strategy. And then what did we do? We added in these emails. I didn't just get a 10% increase, we got a 20% increase of buyers, doubled it overnight. Why was it? It was because the invisible difference that you make in your sales process, you're now starting to warm up your customers or clients, but you got to follow the right steps. You got to be able to have a structure that literally walks them through a webinar funnel that is set up that can handle, right, this type of front end and back end communication, and you're not doing it all manually. Sound pretty awesome, doesn't it?